in mind two facts. Number one, there is no dispute whatsoever that Palestinians have the legal right to return. And number two, the overarching framework for resolving the conflict is not controversial. It's there every year in the United Nations General Assembly vote. Well, where does all the controversy come from? Time doesn't allow me to go through it in detail. However, I'll look at one aspect, namely that which bears in the title of today's lecture. Namely, the dragging in of the Nazi Holocaust and the so-called new anti-Semitism. Israel has exploited the Nazi Holocaust to immunize Israel from criticism by creating controversy and sowing confusion about the actual documentary record on the conflict. This Holocaust industry begins roughly after the June '67 war, and its main contribution is this claim that Jews suffered uniquely during the Nazi Holocaust, that no people in the history of the world has ever suffered the way Jews did during the Nazi era. Intellectually, that claim is completely vacuous, it's completely empty, and morally, it's a complete abomination. How could you possibly prove that a Vietnamese child who's been napalmed has suffered less than the Jewish child who's been thrown into a gas chamber? And why would you even want to go there? But if intellectually and morally, it's vacuous and morally it's an abomination, politically it serves a very useful purpose. Because if you can claim that Jews have suffered uniquely during the Nazi Holocaust, then you can make an argument that they shouldn't be held to the same standard as everyone else. So if it's true, and it is, that Israel is the only country in the world to legalize torture, well, what about the Holocaust? And if it's true, and it is true, that Israel is the only country in the world where house demolitions are a legal form of punishment, but then we're told, what about the Holocaust? And if it's true, and it is true, that Israel is the only country in the world which legalized hostage-taking with a high court called bargaining chips, well, then we're told, what about the Holocaust? Or take this past July, 2 Julys ago, 2006, in August 2006, Israel made another unique contribution. Israel dropped the most cluster bombs in a limited area in the history of the world. Believe it or not, and it almost reads like a science fiction movie. In the last 72 hours of the war, when the United Nations had already passed the ceasefire resolution, and all that remained was to implement it, Israel dropped 4.6 million cluster bomblets on southern Lebanon. Entire villages were just saturated with these cluster bombs. The only case that came even remotely close was in 1991 during Operation Desert Storm, the attack on Iraq. The U.S. dropped 20 million cluster bomblets with over an area 20 times the size. And each time Israel commits another egregious violation of human rights, we're told, what about the Holocaust? The most recent form of this Holocaust card is the so-called new anti-Semitism. The claim that North America and Europe are awash, rampant, rife with a new anti-Semitism. There are two things to say about the new anti-Semitism. One, it's not new, and two, it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. That's not speculative. That's not rhetorical. You have a beautiful library at this school. I was just in it. Beautiful structure. Go in, go to the card catalog, enter the words New Anti-Semitism. The first book that will come up came out in 1974, put out by the major Jewish organization, the ADL. It claimed there's a new anti-Semitism in the world. 1982, the ADL puts out another book called The Real Anti-Semitism. Its thesis, there's a new anti-Semitism in the world. That's literally the case. Every time Israel faces a public relations debacle, or every time Israel faces international pressure to resolve the conflict diplomatically, they start up again the extravaganza, the new anti-Semitism. Take the most recent case, the new anti-Semitism, which begins, we're told, 2001. Everyone here in this room, or nearly everyone, is in a position to judge for him or herself whether or not the claim is true. Because it said that the hotbed of the new anti-Semitism in North America is college campuses. The college campuses, it's so bad now on college campuses, we're told, that places like San Francisco State University, there are pogroms occurring. Riots, Jews are being attacked. I thought to myself, this is a little odd. This is a little perplexing. It happens, and I don't say it as a badge of honor, that I've taught at many universities. I've been around the block many times, though I may have been around my last block last year. One thing you could say about college campuses nowadays, I think is a valid generalization. They are so politically correct that you can't be anti-anything. You obviously can't be anti-black, anti-Puerto Rican, anti-Latino, anti-women, anti-gay. You can't be anti-tall, anti-short, anti-fat, anti-skinny. You know, you can't be anti-downright aesthetically challenged, ugly. You can't. So, it was kind of perplexing. And amidst all of this stifling and suffocating political correctness, there is rampant anti-Semitism. I looked into the cases, couldn't find any examples. Well, some of you may say, of course, you couldn't find any examples. But then last year I opened up the Chronicle of Higher Education, the main in-house publication of academics. As the big article, the title is, "It's a Good Time to be a Jewish Student at an American College." The head of the Hillel says, "It's a golden age of Jewishness on campuses." The head of AIPAC, the main pro-Israel lobby group, says, "It's a glorious time not only for Jewish student life on campuses, but for the pro-Israel student movement as well." Which of course is true. You go on college campuses now, there's a Judaic studies program, there's a Holocaust studies program, there's an Israel studies program, there's an anti-Semitism studies program. The only thing there isn't yet is a special degree program in Jewish naval contemplation. Rampant anti-Semitism on college campuses. Or what about Europe? We're told Europe is on the verge of another final solution. It's 1938, we're told. Hitler is on the horizon. Well, again, I looked into the evidence, couldn't find any, but you shouldn't believe me. Maybe I'm biased. Let's look at what Walter Lacour, the world's leading Zionist historian, has to say. He came out with a book a couple of years ago called The Changing Face of Anti-Semitism. What did he find? Popular attitudes towards Jews were in fact slightly more favorable in Europe in 2002 than they had been in 1991. Not only is there no new anti-Semitism in Europe, it's better than ever before for Jews in Europe. If you believe these claims about a new Nazi-like anti-Semitism, a Holocaust on the horizon, you're going to have some perplexing conclusions to reach.